Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. This video has been several months in the making, and the reason why I decided to use YouTube for this is so that it would feel a little bit more personal, but also so that I can collect my thoughts better and basically script out what I'm saying so that I know I'm saying exactly what I need to. Wow, there's an intro that sounds like autism for you. Okay, anyways. I've also decided to do it this way so that it can make the work of telling everyone a little bit less intimidating for me. So if you're a friend or a family member that has not heard this information yet, and you're just hearing it for the first time here, please don't be offended that I didn't say it in person. And please take this as my attempt to do that in a way that is accessible for me. It has been a challenging year so far for me discovering this, and I've been doing the best that I can to reach out to my closest friends and family for support and to educate myself as much as I can about this topic, because before I realized that it applied to me, I honestly had zero knowledge about it. So because I was so ignorant, I don't expect anyone to necessarily understand immediately, and that's why I'm making this video, hopefully to create some sort of understanding. So here's a little look into my journey so far. If you have known me for any extended period of time or have heard me share my story, you probably know me as someone that has struggled with really intense panic attacks, anxiety, and depression. And you may even know that I have some childhood trauma. For most of my life, those have been the only words that I have had to describe my particular set of difficulties. However, in the last year, I've been noticing some much more specific quirks in my personality and even needs that I have that have led me to believe that something deeper was going on. I've been in therapy on and off for about 5 years. So I began to ask my therapist to help me go through the DSM-5 and look at some of the symptoms for things like ADHD, OCD, PTSD, and even autism. She specifically didn't have any experience with diagnosing autism. We started to look at the other things. And we were part of the way through that process when something crazy started to happen. I started to see a lot of very specific TikToks coming across my For You page that I can only describe as pinpoint accurate descriptions of experiences that I have had, whether as a child or now or just ongoing. A lot of them were specific social experiences or even sensory experiences. And it was individuals talking about stories that they'd had or things that had happened to them. And I was like, wow, that's me. And then at the end of the video, they'd be like, oh, that's because of my autism. And I was like, what? Because to me, I didn't even really know what autism was. I can't say that I necessarily thought of it as a certain thing because I'd never met anyone that had ever said, hey, I'm autistic, and that's what this means. This means this, this, and this. I just didn't know. So I didn't have language for it. But I kept watching these people. So I would click on someone's page when I saw a video like that, and I would watch the rest of their videos. Or go to the links they'd send you to, and I just kept digging in and finding more information that was I don't want to say irrefutable, but I want to say too accurate, too pinpoint specific. I started to really try to educate myself on the topic by looking up articles, by looking up books, YouTube videos, and keep watching some of those same people. Now, some of them were actually psychologists. So there's a lot of therapists and psychologists that have TikToks and will share little bits and pieces of either their experience or the way that they diagnose. And they'll be in conversation through stitching videos on TikTok with individuals that have autism, think they might have autism, and are sharing experiences. And so through those conversations and observing those, I'm learning a lot. I also talk to members of my family that are currently on a similar journey. And what's crazy about that is that those are people that are so similar to me, and that I, for some reason, just didn't think, oh, maybe that applies to me too. Maybe if they're having that struggle, I wonder if I am that way too. I just never thought about it that way. I thought I had my mental health figured out. I was in this little box of like, okay, I have depression, I have anxiety, I have panic attacks. And that turned out to not be the whole story. So I actually found out that autism does run in my family. So I was looking for anything that I could evaluate myself with, like any kind of tests or screening things on the internet that I could find without paying a bunch of money to go to a specialist. So I ended up finding this test called the RAADS-R test. And it's super reputable for self-screening, the kind of thing you take either by yourself or with a therapist, and it will help you decide whether you need to go and get assessed for a diagnosis. So I took it, and the threshold score is 65. I made 163. So I've always loved making good grades. Yay. But I also made everyone in my family take it, and I'm not alone. Now, not everyone in my family is autistic, but several are. And so if any of them want to speak on that, I'll let them speak for themselves. But it's definitely been an entertaining process, and I'm really grateful to feel not alone in it, because it's been super eye-opening and revealing, like the things that are actually underlying motivations and struggles for me that I just kind of glossed over because I didn't have an explanation for. Even after taking that test, I think what actually brought it home for me and gave me that gut feeling that this was the right answer was doing some research into panic attacks versus autistic meltdowns. Because I've been having panic attacks at least once a week, if not multiple times a week or multiple times a day, for my entire life since like childhood. That like all of my memories, like all my memories of family vacations, panic attacks. All my memories of doing something brave and fun and bold, panic attacks. And that's the only word I had to explain it. So I did some research because this was going to be a big key thing for me, was getting some answers about panic attacks versus meltdowns. So the thing that really brought it home for me was when I found out that things like needing to pull your hair to feel pressure, needing to hit your head against a wall repeatedly, needing to hit yourself or even hit something, not someone, but something, to release the pressure in your body that comes up when you're in that panic and that fight or flight mode, those are not panic attack symptoms. Those are autism meltdown symptoms. It was kind of mortifying in a sense to actually confront those things, that it's like, oh yeah, those are the deep dark realities of the things that happen in my brain that I don't necessarily want to talk about to people. I don't want to tell people that those things happen. But anyone that's lived with me, like my mom, my siblings, my husband, they've seen that kind of behavior come out because it's unavoidable. In those moments, like, it's not like I have a choice. It's, I have fight energy in my body and it has to go somewhere. And often it can take hours for me to be able to actually calm down once I'm in that state of meltdown. And so that was definitely the defining answer for me of, okay, yeah, this is obviously something deeper than anxiety, and this name of autism and the descriptors of that line up with the things that I'm experiencing. So I've often had a lot of classic panic attack symptoms as well, like having a tight chest or super fast heart rate, getting super nauseous and lightheaded, having brain fog and confusion and shortness of breath. So I do have classic panic attack symptoms, but there are definitely times that I can't explain, where my brain and body are so overwhelmed that the more painful and embarrassing meltdown symptoms start to occur. And I think I previously thought, and this is so sad, but I really just thought, I guess, that I was a bad person and I couldn't control myself. But those are really just signs of an autistic meltdown. And autism really does have super high comorbidity rates with things like depression, anxiety, autoimmune diseases, suicide, all kinds of things. And here's another kicker for me. autism can make someone 1,000 times more vulnerable to traumatic experiences, where many people might go through something hard and get through it and be fine. An autistic person might go through the same difficult experience, and then instead their brain stores it as trauma, which I can't really even say how much I feel like that has been my life experience. So the other thing that really proved to me that autism was the underlying issue was what was actually causing the meltdowns. I really, truly was ignorant, and I did not think that I had any social issues or sensory issues. But the thing is that as an adult, there's certain things that I just don't do because I don't want to, which I guess is actually an example of avoidant behavior. So here are some of those things. When I started taking antidepressants for my panic attacks several years ago, I started to really enjoy being outside and in the sunshine, and it would really make me happy. And I realized that before that, I didn't like the sunshine. It was irritating to me. And I thought, oh, I didn't like the sunshine, therefore depressed. But now, like, I actually went off of my antidepressants several months ago in this process, which don't ever go cold turkey off antidepressants. That's a terrible idea. But I immediately realized, oh my gosh, the sun is so irritating and so bright. And I was like, oh, I don't think that's because I'm depressed. I think that's a sensory issue. So here's another one. I would always cringe so hard when I would watch my husband make a sandwich, because we would use like the squirt mayonnaise, and he wouldn't necessarily want to get a knife or a spatula dirty. So he would just use his finger and spread the mayonnaise on the bread with his finger. And I was like, oh, that's so gross. And then just to test this theory that I might have sensory problems, I tried to do that myself. And when I tell you I had the most dramatic, gagging reaction to this sensation, I did not want to eat the sandwich anymore. It ruined my whole lunch. Also, my least favorite chore is washing the dishes because of icky food on dishes. I just can't do it. I can't touch it, which I do it all the time, but it makes me feel a certain type of way that maybe not everybody does. So sensory issues have affected my work, because I used to work as a worship leader. I used to have multiple jobs doing that. And here's a vulnerable confession, but I have had so many autistic meltdowns before, during, and after being on stage and being in front of people and leading people, or even like trying to perform live outside of a worship environment, just singing music somewhere. And it's because of the huge amount of social and sensory input that those type of environments have. And you really have to be able to handle all of that in order to do those things regularly. It's the lights. It's 1,000 questions being asked of you at once. You have to make decisions on the fly. You have people looking to you to lead and to be the person that can speak accurately and eloquently, as well as singing, playing, listening to a click track and instruments in your ear, starting the click track. And I used to lead from keyboard all the time. So I would be sitting and I would have a talkback pedal on my left foot. I would have the piano pedal on my right foot. And sometimes I'd have to run clicks too, and that would be like right here. So it's like I'm playing with my hands, I'm singing where people can see me sing, I am hitting the talkback pedal, I'm speaking to the band, I'm also hitting the other pedal with my foot so the keyboard doesn't stop making sound. And it's just, oh yeah, and then you're singing and you're speaking. If you're trying to say anything, like my brain just freezes up so bad. And thank God that he gave me the grace and the ability to do that for a season of my life. And those were some of the best days of my life. And I'm so grateful for the friendships, for the teamwork, for the experiences, and moments in the presence of God that I would never change. But I will say that I have a uniquely difficult time with those things. And I would leave those Thursday nights or those Sunday mornings or Sunday nights, Wednesday nights even, I would leave those experiences completely brain dead and vulnerable. And then I would be having meltdowns afterward, or I would go non-verbal, or I would just have to stay in my room for hours or even a day at a time and just rest, because it was a lot. It was a lot for me. And when it came to the end of that, and that grace was really taken away from me to be able to accomplish those tasks, I couldn't explain to the people in my life at the time, like my bosses or pastors, I couldn't really explain what was going on with me because I didn't have the language then to understand, okay, I'm having an autistic meltdown because of all the sensory input and I'm going into burnout. I didn't have the language to express that to the people that cared about me. And that's something that I regret and that I wish that I could. And so I'm saying that now. So those are sensory things, right? So here's some social things that I have that are a little bit different. So I always take things super literally. And sometimes I can make a joke about it and realize that that wasn't the thing that you were saying that I heard. But sometimes I just get really confused because you said something and I took it literally and you meant something totally different. And I have to ask for explanations like a lot. So if someone says something, but they mean something else, I don't catch on to that. I just don't. So I really have to tell people all the time, you have to tell me what you mean. You have to be straightforward with me because I am not going to pick up on any hints. I can't tell when people are lying. Kind of an offshoot of that same issue. I can't take hints. I can't read in between the lines, which makes me really socially awkward. Like if I don't know that I'm not supposed to be honest in this moment, or if I don't know that I'm not supposed to say something, that gets me in a lot of trouble. There are lots of things that I just flat out don't notice, whether it's the people around me or the environment around me. There could be something totally different that everyone around me notices that I'm the last person to realize. I also get super stressed out when people misinterpret my words or don't understand what I'm saying because I work really hard to make myself very clear and concise. When people don't understand me or take my words out of context or misinterpret my intentions, I just get mad because I don't have ill intent. I'm not trying to be a sassy jerk. I'm just not on the same wavelength as you, I guess. Oh yeah, and a big thing about autism is just not being able to understand or control your own tone of voice. And that's something that has gotten me in trouble my whole entire life. Because people will think, like maybe I'll be stressed out by a situation and that will come out in my voice and I don't even hear it. And then people think that I'm being unkind to them. And that's not my intent. So it's just hard. I have a hard time understanding instructions, whether it's a task at work or an assignment at school, or even just trying to learn how to play a game with friends. Like written or verbal instructions, it sounds like gibberish to my brain, and I often have to take extra time, ask lots of questions, gain context, figure out how things connect, and why everything works, and then maybe I'll understand. So I process a little bit slower than most people when it comes to things like that, and it takes me a little bit longer to understand. I can't hold up in a friend group, and that kind of sucks. I only ever have like 1 or 2 close friends at a time that I have the energy to maintain and to reach out to on a regular basis. And I've had this experience several times throughout my life so far where I will think that I'm in a friend group. I'll think that I am doing well and I'm close to like 6 or 10, maybe even 15 people at the same time that we hang out regularly and I talk to all of them multiple times a week. But then it just turns out that they were all better friends with one of the closer people to me, whether it's my sister or one of my best friends, that the person close to me was actually the one maintaining the circle. And so I'll realize that only after like they stop inviting me to things and continue inviting the person that I'm closest to. So it becomes this awkward thing of like, oh, suddenly I'm all alone and I suck at this. Here's another one that's not super fun. I can tell the moment that someone is no longer engaged in conversation with me or is no longer happy with me. I can tell the moment that someone's facial expressions make that switch, and I can tell that they're either unhappy or not engaged anymore, but I rarely, if ever, understand why. Like, it's very difficult for me to go back and understand what I said or did, or maybe it was my tone of voice that like turn them off to me or whatever. It's hard to make that bridge to cover that disconnect once that happens, and I just get sad because I feel like I've messed up. So because of these issues, I tend to have a very low social battery, and I do naturally tend to be a bit of a hermit, and I'll just stay at home and be by myself and text my 1 or 2 friends and be fine. I might FaceTime my mom. If I'm going to FaceTime or call anybody, it's gonna be my mom. And I don't really like phone calls, but I don't even think that's an autistic thing. I think that's just my generation thing, maybe. Texting is way more accessible. So with these realizations, I have been working really hard to switch my terminology from things like illness and symptoms to more positive and more accurate things like neurotype and differences. Even quirks is okay, I don't care, but I have to really make that switch because autism is not an illness. Depression is an illness, and I might still have that, I'm not totally sure, but autism is not. It is a neurotype. I was born with it, I will die with it, and so I have to make peace with it. And now I know why my so-called like anxiety and depression were so treatment resistant, because that was not the true underlying issue behind my behaviors or my needs. And many of the struggles that I face day to day are because of my brain actually being fundamentally different. And I cannot approach these differences as if there's something wrong that needs to be fixed, because then I'm just attacking myself. So I really have to learn how to accept my differences and how to adapt and care for myself as I am. I know that this can sound a lot like TMI, this can sound kind of personal, but I really just want to get it out in the open. I don't want to be scared of it anymore. I want to be able to talk about it so that I can have better success at loving the people that are around me and building up some understanding. Now here's something I want to talk about. I know that there are going to be some people that question, whether quietly or loudly, if these things are accurate and true. If me being autistic is even a real thing, or if I'm just painting with a broad brush, self-diagnosing, making all this up. Or even you think I'm limiting myself and putting myself in a box. Lovingly or not, I'm going to tell you that that view is super harmful. I stayed awake at night and studied my butt off for months and months and researched my butt off for months and months before I had a true gut feeling that this was my answer. And the only reason that I haven't gotten a formal diagnosis yet is because of how inaccessible, expensive, and potentially inaccurate they are, as well as the fact that there are no real resources for me after getting that diagnosis. I'm not about to waste my money and my time and my emotional energy to be told something that I already know. And a lot of people actually are in the same boat as me. There is a huge gap in diagnosis in girls and women because the diagnosis itself was written around little boys. And so many people like me have had to adapt and to mask their entire lives to fit into neurotypical society, only to experience meltdowns and burnout and severe trauma and pain in private that they were not able to talk about or even understand. And a lot of people that have been in that same boat, like me, are realizing their differences now as an adult. So I'm actually really lucky that I have not experienced total autistic burnout yet. And I have not been disabled by this yet. I consider myself super lucky that I'm able to work for myself and study and pursue my dreams, because a lot of people are unable. I do have to face the reality that at some point in my life, I could be in that position. Because of that, I really have to take care of myself now. So here's another one. If you're watching this and your first thought is to say, I'm so sorry to hear about that. I actually had a teacher this week when I explained, hey, I'm autistic. Please give me a chance to redo this if I mess it up. I probably didn't understand the instructions. She said, I'm so sorry to hear about your autism. And I was just like, this is not something to be sorry for. This is something to congratulate me about. If anything, this is something that I'm so excited to finally have an answer to a lifetime of struggle. I'm excited to have reasons and a whole history of study and knowledge that I can apply to my own life and try to make my life better. I'm really excited to have this knowledge now. This is not something that's not like someone died and you're like, I'm so sorry for your loss. This is like, I have answers now. So please, nobody say, I'm so sorry. Please. That's actually really offensive if you think about it. It's like, I'm so sorry for your mental differences. I'm so sorry because you're inferior. I'm so sorry because I'm not gonna keep ranting about this, but just don't say that, okay? Just be kind. Just think about your words and how they sound, because I have to do that all the time. The people that actually love me and are close to me are super excited with this news, and super happy for me that we get to walk this journey together and learn new things. This is actually really a blessing, and there's so many positive sides to being autistic. There's so many things that make me really good at the things that I'm good at. I have had my challenges, but I am so glad that I have the opportunity now to slow down, take stock, educate myself, create habits and patterns that will have me healthy the rest of my life, and move forward from this. Move forward with this. And I'm really excited to learn how to take better care of myself now before I have children who potentially might or might not be like me. So if you have made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. That's really meaningful to me that you took the time out of your day to listen. I would encourage you to share this video with anyone that you know that might be autistic or might be on the same journey, because the biggest encouragement for me has been hearing other people's stories. And so I just wanted to be one of the many voices out there to share that as life-changing as it is to discover your own autism as an adult, it's such a blessing. And also, since I have started to slowly talk about this to the people around me, I have met and spoken to several people that have also discovered their autism through TikTok, which is hilarious to me. And actually super cool if you think about it. Very cool. So thank you for watching. This is where I'm gonna end today's video. Y'all have a blessed day, and I'll see you next time.